So the first thing I want to say is that this kind of trauma is so complex. It's not going to be healed with tips and tricks. Like, nothing I'm going to say here is not going to be a magic pill. I do hope to provide some framework and guidance. Okay, and this is Q&A too. This is relationship real talk, and it's also Q&A. So feel free to ask questions. Like, this is your time to do that. Okay, so in betrayal trauma, it can look all kinds of different ways. This, of course, looks like affairs. If you have a long-term partner, or not even that long-term partner, but the betrayal, when it is a long-term partner, there's a lot deeper impact of the trauma. So it, of course, looks like cheating. It can look like contracting an STD from a partner that you thought was being faithful. It can look all kinds of ways. So, and research studies show just the insidiousness, I guess, of this type of trauma. Not that you can't heal. Remember that the body is a genius at healing. So no matter how deep the trauma goes, it's okay. The body knows how to heal itself. We just have to give it a container, right? But it's different than just pure fear-based trauma where something happens or there's an event that happens and your body experiences that fight or flight. It gets stuck in your body. It's different than that. The roots tend to go a lot deeper because it's very destabilizing and ungrounding. So human connection is the highest need for us as human beings. It really is right up there with food, oxygen, sleep. It's human connection. We are so deeply wired to connect. So when you have what you thought was a safe connection, and then there's a massive betrayal, of course, you start questioning everything. Denial is really common too. So because of the high impact of the trauma, our defensive responses come online, and we can kind of forget about it. We can deny it. We can talk ourselves into like, well, is it probably just one time? It wasn't so bad. Okay, because that type of trauma is so deeply hurtful. So the impact of it is very destabilizing. It's very disorienting. It's very ungrounding. So because we know that type of trauma has that type of effect, that's really where we have to go in the healing process. Okay, so I took some notes I'm going to look at just to make sure I don't forget anything. Let's see, yeah. Oh yeah, some things that you might experience. Everything from numbness to flashbacks. You can really get on this shame-blame game. Okay, so either I'm making myself a monster, like, how did I not see it? I'm so stupid. What's wrong with me? That they have to go elsewhere, right? That's a huge, huge story, a narrative tape that plays. What is it about me? I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. Just all these type of things, the shame game. And then we can easily switch to the blame game, which instead of making yourself the monster, you're making them the monster, right? So here's one really important thing I want to say about this. And I talk about this a lot in other videos. If you followed me for a while, you've probably heard me talk about this. We never want to make other people monsters. Ever. We're not dealing with one person's a monster and one person's not. We're dealing with trauma across the spectrum. This does not excuse the behavior. This does not mean the behavior was hurtful and severely misaligned with the trust and relationship. It does not mean that there wasn't a severe breakage. Right? And when you've been traumatized, you can really get into a blame space for a while. And depending on the type of trauma, playing the blame game can be a protective coating for a while. It kind of like helps you cocoon a bit while you heal those first little layers of being so severely burned. It's just important that we don't stay there. Okay, does that make sense? Feel free to let me know what questions you have. Is this resonating with you? Okay, so we just don't want to stay there forever. Okay, so, but those are some of the common symptoms that can come up with this type of trauma. So really intrusive stuff like flashbacks, intrusive memories, nightmares, things like that, going completely numb. Because remember, this type of trauma is very disorienting and destabilizing. So you really lose your sense of groundedness. So just going completely numb is a survival response. And then the shame, blame, seesaw. Okay. Let me make sure there's anything else I wanted to say about that. Okay, that's it for that. So how do we heal? So right now, this is going to be regardless of if you try to work it out with the person. Okay, that is your choice. One of the most commonly asked questions I get is, should I stay? And my response is, that's always going to be up to you. There's no right or wrong. Okay, so I'm going to speak to that in a minute if you do choose to stay with the person and try to work it out and try to heal the relationship. There's no wrong way. You're not going to take a wrong path. Okay, so many of the women I've worked with over the years are so deeply afraid of taking the wrong path and making the wrong decision, and that just doesn't exist. Well, what should I do? They blame themselves for staying. They blame themselves for not. There's no wrong thing here. Anybody resonate with that? Raise your hand if you do. Have you been here? You can say or not say, but give me a hand raise if like this is hitting home. Yeah? Let me know how this feels for you. I'd love to know that, beloveds. Okay, so but right now, that's going to be, I'm going to talk about that piece in a minute. Whether you stay with the person or not, whether you do this alone or do this with them, my top recommendation is going to be working with a very trauma-informed therapist or coach, somebody who's dealt with this before. Somebody who deals with sex addiction is probably going to be helpful as well. That's more to do with if you choose to work it out with a person. But again, I'll speak to that in a minute. Just get with somebody really trauma-informed. Because first kind of order of business, okay, I see you there, yeah. Seeing all of you, yeah, for sure. First order of business is to reground in your body, finding a sense of safety, security, grounding within your temple, physical body. That is first order of business. Okay, any good therapeutic container is going to do that for you anyway. You know, when I work with my clients, whether it's in our membership or whether I do work with private clients, first order of business is to up your grounding game. So along with that, and this is going to be, you know, you're going to get to invest in more of a long-term healing here. This is not going to be a few sessions. It's just not. Depending on the type of healing you want to do, if you really want to heal it deep, this is not just going to be a few sessions. This is going to be some work. But along with grounding, what you're going to want to do is not only find a sense of safety and security and stability within your own temple body, regardless of what happens around you. You and a therapist or coach are going to want to, you're going to want to learn what it feels, what your yes and what your no really feel like in your body. Okay, what does a boundary violation really feel like in your body? We get so disconnected and detached from that. Okay, so you're going to want to learn what different things feel like in your body. Okay, but kind of getting a little ahead of myself, so I'm going to go back to that in a minute. First order of business is to ground. Then when it's safe enough in your body, you're going to want to, in a contained way, be able to release all the rage, all the hurt, all the sadness, all the grief that's been stored in your body. because those emotions literally get stored within your physical body. So we need to be able to release those in a safe way, in a way that doesn't hurt other people, right? In a way that does not hurt you, but a way to just release. One of my favorite things to do with my clients and our Queens members is, we do anger and rage and grief release sessions. Okay, we have whole sessions devoted to just that release. Now, it's important that you have at least a good enough sense of grounding in your body before we do this, because what we don't want to do is re-traumatize. To be really, really honest, if you re-traumatize, your body can still heal. It's not the end all be all, okay? We need to get to a place of not being afraid of being in our own bodies. Okay, so this type of betrayal trauma is very disembodying. It's very ungrounding. So we need to get back in there. We need to build safety, maybe for the first time, into the body. Okay, so ground first. Then when it's time, and a trauma-informed therapist or coach can help you discern when it's the right time, you get to just release all that emotion. And releasing all that emotion helps bring clarity. That is what helps you. As you start doing this, you're going to start to feel, okay, when this person does that, it doesn't feel good. Okay, when this person says this, it does feel really good. What does good, bad feel like in your body? What does yes, no feel like in your body? That is going to be one of your biggest jobs through the healing process. Okay, because if you are choosing to heal with a partner, if you're going this route, that is going to be really important for you. Because again, this is where I really strongly recommend working with somebody who is specialized in sex addiction. Because typically when there's this type of sexual or intimacy type betrayal, very typically we find sex addiction lurking underneath that. And that's a whole other big nugget. Okay, I specialize in working with the partners of people with sex addiction. I don't specialize in sex addiction itself. Okay, so work with somebody who does. That's my recommendation for you. Here's another recommendation. One of the better courses you can do for this, I think, is when you both are seeing somebody individually and then you're coming together to do couples work. Okay, so you do have to have your own private space, but then you come together to work as a couple. And healing as a couple around this is going to take time. There's been a lot of wounding and a lot of betrayal and a lot of trust that's just been broken and shattered, right? So it is going to take time to heal that. And you both get to show up to do that work together. If you're choosing to do it, do it. Lean in, lean all in. This is where we don't want to make them the monster. Well, they did it, so they have to do most of the work. No. Be wary of that, because that's your defenses coming up. And just lingering in that victimization place, right? And that limits your healing, that limits the healing that can happen in the coupleship. That doesn't mean you're responsible for their behavior. No. That's their responsibility. But just know that you also get to show up to do the work. Your work, again, is going to look mostly like, I can't say this for everybody individually, but I have to really generalize it here. But your work is going to look a lot like, again, getting back in your body, building safety there. Because as you start to come back together as a couple, if you're choosing that route, you're going to start interacting differently. And if they and you are working on respecting each other's boundaries, you are going to be able to need to discern, again, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, what feels safe, what doesn't feel safe. Let's take a breath here. This is a lot of information. Take a nice deep breath. Okay, let me check my notes, make sure I got everything. Yep, I think that was it. All right. Any questions at all? How does this feel? Is this resonant for you? Feeling good? Okay, beloveds. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you watch the replay or if you watch it again, feel free to comment below and just let me know, let us know how this shows up for you. What is this like for you? Okay, do you like what questions come up? Right, so but my goal today, again, this is a long healing process. So my hope today was just to give you a little framework and just some insight, some validation, hopefully, and just at least a little bit of a framework to get you started. Yes, you're so welcome. Absolutely. It's interesting how we hold more trauma by not releasing. Yep, exactly. Yeah, thank you for presencing that. It's going to be so, so important to, again, when you're grounded enough, release. Release the trauma, the stuck emotions, because what happens when we don't release stuck emotions and trauma is that they remain in the body, literally, in your muscle tissues, in your nervous system, in your organs. They stay there. And what happens when they stay there? Well, it's just energy that's lingering. So it keeps telling the nervous system, we're still here. We're still in the trauma. We still need to fight or flight. We still need to be hypervigilant. We still need to be super on guard. That's what happens. So if we don't release that trauma from the body, we're just going to keep perpetually living in that state and unconsciously recreating the same scenarios over and over and over again. So we don't want you to do that. Definitely, it's a vicious cycle to get caught in. Absolutely. Yes, for sure. Yeah, and remember that the body is a genius at healing. That's its favorite thing to do. Okay, so that's why trauma-informed containers are so important, because that's going to help set you up to get out of the way so the body can do what it does naturally. Yes, I've been paralyzed from the action. It's frustrating because I want to move forward, but there's that energetic wall. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Of course, I can't speak for you personally, but thank you so much for commenting. I'm so glad you are. A lot of what keeps us stuck is fear of our own emotions. Pain is pain. Pain sucks. Pain sucks. It's part of it. It's a fact of life. The pain can go so deep, and the betrayal can go so deep, and the grief and the rage and the hurt can go so deep. It's not typically the more fiery emotions we're so afraid of. That's a little bit easier. It's the vulnerable emotions underneath that. Okay, rage usually comes out first. Rage and anger, like big and heavy. That's so important, but it's underneath that we avoid. Because it fucking sucks. It sucks to feel that hurt, that betrayed, that grief-stricken, that vulnerable. Allowing yourself to fully feel those feelings and not create a story around the feelings. Don't make yourself bad. Don't make them bad. You can be angry at what they did. 100%. You can be angry at them. Just don't turn anybody into monsters. So when you can fully feel that emotion and release the story behind it, that is the healing, magical place to be. That is the magical place to be. Your body will love that, and you will feel so much more spacious, and you'll get more clarity. Yeah, definitely fear of even being myself lately. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So remember, first order of business is to, perhaps for the first time, really come back home here into your physical body to really heal these cycles and not unconsciously recreate them. We have to feel at home and safe within your own physical body. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming to Roaring Mondays. Watch for my stories, because this happens every single Monday, unless I tell you in my stories otherwise, if we take a break or take a week off or something. Otherwise, it's right at this time. feel free to DM me and just let me know. I don't do personal coaching through DMs, of course, but I do take questions like, hey, can we talk about this? I'll be like, sure. So, because I want to know what you want to know about in relationships. These are for you. So breathe it in, take it in, receive. I love you. Thank you so much for being here in our community, and have a blessed day, the rest of the day. And remember, it's okay to take care of yourself. Okay? Love you. Bye for now.